So last video of the define, yeah, we got there. Just only 4 phases to go. It's about how to manage the project, and again, we can talk a lot about managing projects. That's not what we're gonna focus on. We're more towards problem-solving projects, right, or improvement projects. So some of the tools and things that I've been using in kind of the last 10, 12 years in our capstone consultant projects that makes a lot of sense and make it easy to understand what happened, what's going on, and also to give tell the people what other people that are not directly involved or people that are directly involved but other departments uh, that what the project was about, what we're doing, why is it important. So these kind of some important tools. The first one is we usually create a storyboard, and a storyboard is a PowerPoint presentation that kind of present everything you're doing throughout the project, and that's important to be in a kind of one single document because if you have in different places, you can kind of lose the logic or the thought process that happened, right? So what we create in consultant projects is we start a deck on week one, and we go until the last day, last presentation, final presentation with that, right? So you go developing the define and the measure and the analyze and the improve and control. Anyone that can look at it 6 months later or 3 months later to this, or receive an email with this presentation, can actually follow what was going on and what the team did and how important it is, and all the difficulties and tools that were used to solve the problem. Okay, so that's the storyboard. It's just a sequence of slides telling the whole story. And here are some tips that you guys can read it with kind of more detail later on, but it summarized everything. Usually you go for a PowerPoint with some kind of visual representation. Again, this is a slide that structure of slides that we use to have the phases in the bottom here telling, okay, we're in define now, then we go to measure, analyze, improve, and control. So whenever you are in the presentation, you can quickly kind of find out where you are and what has been presented. Also, always have transition slides from one phase to another because the phases have kind of different goals, right? So have this kind of, this is for example the introduction of define, telling okay what's define is all about. Numbers are important. Here are some opportunity statements. Sometimes we're okay in writing more than we usually do in presentations, because again we don't want to write too much, but if we write too little, people will not understand if you're not presenting, right? So the idea is that these PowerPoints and storyboards have to be presented, have to be people have to be able to understand them without you presenting them. That's kind of, I know it's tricky, but you have to be present a lot of information with less text as possible. It's okay to be a little bit heavy there, here and there, right? Uh, Introduction now to measure phase. Again, have a slide kind of broken up. Uh, be graphical, and we're going to talk a lot about graphics and visualization of data and all that. But be mindful that you have title on your graphs to explain what it is, when the data was collected, what database are you talking about. This was a project that the goal was actually Delta Cargo was one of our capstone partners, so we did several consulting projects with them. And this one was their call center. Yes, although we spend a lot of time waiting call centers, sometimes companies care about call centers, and this was a project to reduce the time at the call center. So what the students did, this slide is showing that they did actually call 7 different agencies and companies and find out how long it took for someone to take their call, right? And you can see here, is that a problem with Delta? Is Delta doing good or Delta doing bad? Well, you can see Delta is doing very bad. There's only 2 companies that actually do worse than Delta. So they highlighted Delta in red, which is good because you kind of put your eyes there. They explain when they collected this data here, kind of, so it gives you enough information, and they put some takeaways here, which help you kind of clearly looking at that and seeing what is good and what should I pay attention to. So here's some process maps. Sometimes it's good to break down process maps because it becomes too big. So you kind of break. Oh, this is the first part. This is the second part. This is the third part of my process map. So be mindful of how to represent it to be quick and easy for people to understand it. Right. So there's people that you're going to be presenting if you're going to work in a capstone consultant project. You're going to be present to higher management, or even if you're going to work for a company, you're going to present that to your manager, or the manager of manager, or the director, or the boss, the boss of the boss, whatever it is, right? So these people don't have much time. You have to be quick, and you have to put the thing in their face pretty hard and pretty quick, right? So be mindful of that. Think about that when you're creating a slide, right? Are our eyes pointing in the right direction? Are we highlighting the important things? These are very, very important things to think about. This slide just talk about bullet points. Bullet points is good because people are gonna go directly to them. So, oh, general agent. Oh, here's this. So they're gonna be directly going to those bullet points and having some takeaways at the end. Usually, I do takeaways at the end of every phase. So define phase. Find phase usually don't have a takeaway because you're kind of trying to understand what this project is all about. But measure phase have a takeaway because sometimes have 10 slides at the last, then you kind of don't remember it quite well what you talk in the beginning. So have a takeaway to get to the next phase and analyze, and then takeaway to get to the next phase. It makes it look better and easier to present. Here are just some the introduction phase to analyze. So kind of some guidelines for the storyboard. Now I go to parking lot. So whenever you're doing a project, since day one, you start talking to people and things come to your mind and say, why don't they do this and why don't they do that? And but sometimes it's not really the time to talk about solutions because you need to focus on understanding what the project's all about and then mapping it and understanding root causes. And improve is only the fourth phase, so we still have a lot of things to go. So what we like to do is have like a parking lot of ideas. So you write down your idea, you put it in the parking lot, it waits there. When it gets to improve, or when you finalize analyze that we can talk a little bit more about what are we going to do next, is then when you get back that out of the parking lot and then start discussing with more details. But it's important to capture those ideas because they might be the solution of the project, and you kind of find out and measure, but you need to keep going and keep the structure of the process improvement or problem solving methodology to make sure that that is the right idea, right? We don't want to do something called jump to conclusions where you jump to something and then end up not being the right thing, not being the root cause, and then you spend a lot of time doing something that it was useless, right? And finally, gaining approval to just kind of present a template of a project charter, right? And project charters are important because it's again is it usually before define is when you actually get the project approved, right? In capital consultant projects that some of you guys will work, you already have the project, right? We already have a form that we use where you define the project. We're giving you the project, and you just take it and run it with it, right? But most of the time when you go to practice, you're gonna be part of gaining the approval of the project. So there's many templates. The company that you're gonna work on probably have a template of how to get the project approved. So it's important to understand, of course, what is the why variable that you're going to improve, what is the process, what's the beginning, what's the end, what is the goal, what is the timeline, and these sorts of things. So here you have some examples of it. You guys can take a look at, with more in depth. Some of you again will have the ones that we actually use. You can Google it. There's tons of other templates, and that's now we get to the end of finishing define. And I know you're very excited because then we're going to start measuring.